Okay, so let's take a look at how we can create a single database in Azure SQL database. So what we're going to do is we are going to take a look at our Microsoft Azure portal, then click on services, and then we will move to databases. Now within that particular page, we will be checking out Azure SQL, right? So if we click on it, we will be going to its portal specific for Azure SQL deployments, right? Now what we can do is we will select create option. Okay, so first thing that we are going to do is we will click on create, which should take us to a page where we can select from list of the database services. So on the left hand side you will see SQL database showing resource type as single database, elastic pool or database server, right? Then comes this SQL manage instance. So if you want to put on your existing database into migration, this would be a good fit to give it a manage instance. Here again you have single instance of this Azure SQL or Azure Arc. Then comes SQL virtual machines. So this will be basically containing everything from your SQL Server license along with Windows Server license as well, right? Here you can see free SQL Server license along with Windows Server 22. You can also use the LTS versions of 2019 of SQL Server along with Windows family of OS. Then there is bring your own license for 2019, also for Red Hat, Ubuntu, SUSE, right? So you have all these options for your legacy apps, right? So this is just an option for you to explore. I'm not going to follow this. Currently my goal is to create a single database out of Azure SQL, right? So I'll pick this SQL databases where we have resource type, right? And choose single database out of that, click create. Now the next thing is we have to set some basic things up like subscription, resource group, right? Here I will choose the existing resource group. Then comes database details. Let's say I want to put up a database name, right? So what I will do is I will use devdb as the name for my database. Now currently I don't have any server, so it will ask me to set one up for myself, right? So what I will do is I will go to server name. Let's name this DB, right? And it will also ask me to choose the location, so I will pick up the location, right, which is by default. If you want to check particular location, let's say region close to you or region that usually has the cheaper cost, you can pick that, right? Then comes authentication method. So you have option from Azure Active Directory, then SQL authentication, and both SQL and Azure Active Directory authentication. So I will choose SQL only because I have not set up Azure Active Directory. That I will cover later. So for now we will just use my name and password. Now here you can see all the details filled up. I will click OK so that it will go back to the form, right? Here you will notice that it has my server on US. Then it will ask me to use SQL Elastic Pool. I have explanation for what that is. Basically it is cost effective solution for managing performance. So considering this is a test database, I won't be making use of this, so I will say no. Then comes compute and storage. Here your DTUs and storage matters a lot, right? So that would also decide the cost that you are likely to incur, right? Now what I will do is I will just configure the database here and select the slice that suits my budget. Here you can see 1156 INR is the estimation because that's the minimum DTU along with data, right? So here you can see budget friendly. Here you can also pick on general purpose, most budget friendly, serverless compute, right? So you can pick that. Let's see what it does to the price. It says budget friendly, however it went very out of control, and 29,000 turns out to be its price, right? So we'll switch to something better. We'll choose basic DTU based pricing. Here you can see estimated cost is 384 INR, the most simple one considering 5 DTUs and 2 GB of data, right? So we can click apply, go here. I know it is the most basic one, but considering I am using the test database, I don't think I would be justifying any higher price than that, right? Now here backup storage redundancy, I will not use geo redundant considering this is test database. I will use locally redundant backup storage, right? Now here total cost would be visible for you, right? So I can also do some of the other options like, let's say, networking, etc., networking, security, additional settings, right? So if I click on networking, here you can see networking method. You can choose public endpoint because we want to connect it with external apps. So I will choose connectivity method as public endpoint. Then comes firewall rules, where you have Azure services and resources to access the server. Click yes, add current client IP address, say yes. Now comes the collection policy, where you can see I choose default, where redirect policy for all client connection origin inside of Azure and proxy for all clients. So we will go with default. Then comes encrypted connection. So the basic usually stays with TLS 1 to 1.2. So we won't be touching this any further, right? Now next comes security. Here you have option for choosing Microsoft Defender. So I won't be using that. Then comes ledger, just in case you want any cryptographic verification. So I'm not choosing that either. Then there is identity. So I have not set up Azure Active Directory or any identity related setup either. So I'm not going to configure that. So I will pass that on as well. Then comes additional settings. For example, do you want backup, or if you have any sample data, right? You can use existing sample data by clicking on sample, right? Base, choose that, and then we will move to next, which is tags, right? I'm not going to add any tag, and then so finally review and create. So estimated cost for this is 384.63, right? Then we move ahead, and now we will click on create, right? So once this deployment starts and it creates an instance, we will be able to go to that particular deployment part. As you can see, it is a bit quicker as well, and for you to check all the options, it will have to give you green light. Now once the deployment is complete, you can go to the resource, and here you will find your details related to server name. Then you also have things to configure, like configure access to your SQL server. Then you can use connection string to connect to, and also you can connect your Azure Data Studio to make the connection. So we'll go to configure our access. Here we would be adding our current IP address along with other set of IPs, right? So here you can see I already have my IP address added. Now the next thing would be adding more rules. If you want, You can add series of IP address from 000 all the way to 255 range and so on, right? So apart from that, you can also take a look at connectivity, right? You can keep everything default, you can choose encryption, right? And let's take a look at one more option, which is going to be, let's go to overview to check that. Here you can see your admin user, your password at the time, you know that very well. Then server name, this will be used to connect with variety of database admin tools out there, right? So this would be a good option for you to go through all of the instance, and then you can choose to import some content, right? Also you can create database from here itself, right? So this would be a good option for you to use your Azure portal for doing those tasks for which you usually use any database app, right? So this was how you create single instance of Azure SQL within Microsoft Azure portal.